What's up, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall market. I'm also going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about other factors out there and why NIO is trying to push right now as we reach my price target and why there's more upside. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon, in just about 12 days from now. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So as far as NIO goes, we have 4.66 as our main support. As long as we're above our 20 EMA, we are favoring a push for 4.88. And exactly as predicted, we did get this bounce on NIO as we're getting very, very close to earnings. This is no surprise so far. I think that this is a very, very good sign. So as long as we're above this support, I do favor more upside. We'll have to see how things end up going. But overall, we're doing a good job. So let's talk about something else. Just know that as far as NIO goes, okay, tomorrow is going to be a quiet day. We just have Walmart, Lowe's, and Xpeng announcing earnings. But tomorrow is going to be the last full day until we get to NIO's earnings, because NIO earnings come out before market open in the USA. So I'm saying this based off the American markets. I am in America. We're talking about the New York Stock Exchange and the other markets. Based off those timings, NIO is going to be having its earnings before the market opens here. So that means if you're in America or if you're trading in the US markets, your last chance to either exit or enter NIO positions before earnings is going to be tomorrow. So I'm going to give you guys a very, very important warning about that. NIO has earnings on a Wednesday and approaching it. We're seeing some optimism as the share price is going up. We're also seeing more updated targets for the 2025 to 2030 period. If I go all the way down in this article, you guys can see that there's another update here. So now many analysts are getting more bullish forecasts, and they're seeing NIO going up to about $26 a share within a couple of years. And then for the next 1 to 2 years, they do expect between $6 to $8 a share again. We could even greatly surpass all of this. These are just very, very I would say more conservative estimates, because of the fact that it's good to play it safe, and because of what's been happening at least around the world involving geopolitics. So I'm just going to say this: I am still very bullish nonetheless. I think there's a lot of upside in these dips down to like the $4 area have been very, very nice buying opportunities. So the upside is still there. The potential for it is still there. We have 48 million in volume. That is once again very close to average, not bad whatsoever. Short volume is going down just a bit. Earnings are just kind of like flat right now, whereas the financials are showing some improvement in terms of revenue per share. Besides that, there's not really much else that's coming out. For the broader markets, we saw some stocks like Nvda in the red, whereas Aapl was in the green. Tesla saw a nice push, and the majority of stocks are more like flat. We did see some green here and there from like Netflix and Google. But for the most part, the market was more flat. It's not really doing much. So very interesting stuff, but we did see some green, at least for our indices, not to mention our ETFs, which is a good sign for the markets. There are buyers stepping in. Now, as far as the market goes tomorrow, there's not really much data coming out, just minor housing data before market open. And besides that, everything else is going to be quite minor. The fear and greed index is currently at neutral, stuck in the middle. Greed is returning to the market's momentum is building right here. The put and call option ratio is starting to slow here. It's at the 0.7 ratio because we're starting to see a slowdown in put buying. And then the VIX is starting to dip again as we hit some tough resistance. This is once again a sign the market is trying to bounce. So for tomorrow, it's the last full day in the American markets until we get NIO's earnings. As long as you don't lose 4.66, this is favoring a bigger push for the 4.8 area. I think there's a good chance we try to push a little bit higher. And I think that we might be looking for about 4.88 as our potential target as we have this gap to fill approaching earnings. So I think it's a good setup right over here. In addition to all of this, I also want to call out other tickers such as SPY. Now, SPY does have this tough resistance. I do think we might dip a little bit here before it tries to continue to push. If we break this resistance at this 589 area or 50 EMA, I expect a bigger push for about 592 or so. So we have to try to break that resistance at 589, and we will be pushing. On the daily, we're holding our 20 EMA. We also have this gap to fill on the daily, taking us up to about the 593 area. So as long as SPY tries to hold above 589, if we break that tomorrow, we're looking for that gap fill, taking us all the way back up here. We'll see which way SPY goes. If we lose 585, we will turn more bearish to fill this gap down here. We could at least start to fill a part of it to start dipping to 583 to 580. But if we break past 589, we're going to be pushing higher. For the short term, it does look like this is going to try to push a little bit more There's some potential in this as we're holding support. So this might attempt to push a little higher, maybe to try to fill this gap, maybe depending on Nvidia's earnings. But then later on, we still have this other gap to fill, so we'll have to see how that ends up going. For now, it does look like it wants to push a bit more. I also say this because ES is holding the daily 20 EMA, and on the 4-hour time frame, it's looking pretty promising here. It might try to push for about 59.39, which could push SPY even higher. Nvidia has dipped a bit. It might try to push higher for about this imbalance fill for 142. I say that because we held 140 and we have earnings coming out on Wednesday, so there might be some hype coming. Bitcoin remains range bound. It's trying to hold its 20 EMA, though. As long as we don't lose this, it might kind of dip and then bounce and make its way back up to about 92,000. So I think 92 to 88,000 is going to be our range. We're going to likely be range bound for the time being. As far as other tickers go, we have Tesla. Tesla is bullish, but here's the thing about Tesla. It is possible it dips to try to fill this gap down here before it tries to bounce higher. This could be resembling like an inverse head and shoulders if we do get that move down. I would like to see that. That would be a lot more healthy. If we break 350, we're looking for a push back up to this imbalance. If we end up dipping, we need to lose 330. If that's the case, we're going to be coming down to fill this gap. I would like to see it fill this gap then bounce. If it does do that, or if it gets to the 20 EMA and bounces, that could be a long opportunity for an inverse head and shoulders like structure that could be forming, right? There is lots of momentum building, but a little dip would be very, very healthy for a bounce right after. So we'll have to see how things end up going. So with this little dip here, we'll see if we get a bounce and give this the time it needs. For other tickers out there, we also happen to have, let me just go back down here. NQ is flat right now. As long as we don't lose 20,530, this is favoring a push back up to 20,764. As long as we hold the support, I'm going to be looking for this pump, so give this as much time as it needs. For QQQ, we're just waiting to see. I think that we're just kind of flat here. We may attempt to push closer to about 503, so give this a little bit more time. I think that as long as we're above 500, 503 is going to be our next target. But if we don't hold 500, we could be dipping. This might dip a bit and then try to push a little higher for this resistance. There's a very good chance that that's going to happen. For Aapl, Apple's on a bit of an uptrend right here. It might dip closer to about this 226 area before it tries to bounce. So watch to see how things end up going, and there's a good chance that's going to continue. As far as Netflix goes, this remains more bullish. It did dip a bit only to get bought back up. So that was very, very fortunate. I thought this would actually dip a little bit after what happened. But there is a lot of talk about how there's going to be a live stream of an NFL game very soon. So it remains bullish. If we could break 850, we're looking for 860 as our targets. Looking at the IWM, still kind of lackluster here. I still think we're going to try to base between 226.75 and 228. Might try to base in this area before it tries to bounce, so just keep that in mind. For coin, we look a little bit more bullish as long as we don't lose this support right over here at 300 flat. I think the odds favor a dip and a bounce. We might try to push our way back up to about the 330 area. Amazon, on the other hand, is more lackluster as we got some bad news that came out. I think there's a good chance that we could be looking for a small dip right over here, closer to about this 200 flat area. We're going to be testing previous resistance becoming support, back down to 200, so it might be a small dip. Meta could be dipping as well. We're going to be looking to see if we make our way back down to 550. We'll see if we bounce off that, but there might be a small dip coming. For Microsoft is rejecting here. We could be dipping closer to about this 412 area. Then we'll see if we bounce or not, so give this some more time. And then for Google, we are making lower highs here, so we'll have to see if we reject off 177. Might dip here before it tries to bounce, so we'll see how that goes. But if anything, I think that there is a tough resistance here at this 177 area. I think that we might see a small dip on Google. We did attempt to rebound, but this might be a dip before it tries to bounce again. So look for a retest of about 174 before it tries to bounce. Anyways, for NIO, guys, thank you all so much for listening. I think that NIO is looking more bullish, at least for the time being. There's a good chance this is going to continue to push this imbalance to the 4.88 area approaching tomorrow. Whether or not we get a bigger bounce may depend on earnings, so we're just waiting for that for Wednesday. Until then, just know that tomorrow is the last full trading day for NIO until earnings comes out. So I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day, and peace out.